Our Almighty God, Creator of heaven and earth, Father and lover of our soul, you sit on your throne of mercy and rule with your love and faithfulness. You are full of grace. We acknowledge your presence in our lives. Nothing is hidden in your eyes, even our challenges and struggles in life. We come to you with faith. We ask not only for our daily spiritual bread, but to seek your forgiveness and undeserving favor to heal our land, our family members, our friends and neighbors, even our enemies with COVID-19 and other diseases. Holy Spirit, help us to deepen our faith and see the opportunity to believe, obey, and worship as we face this pandemic. You are Lord and God. Encourage us and change our hearts, not to fear, but to be full of hope and find ourselves praying and meditating your word. We believe no works of the enemy prosper to your children. Abba, Father, we believe that your Son Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior. He is the truth and our salvation. Hear our prayers, O Lord, and most of all, not our will, but thy will be done. We pray this in Jesus' name, the name above all names, who was and is to come. Amen.
Walang kasing saya ang Paskong Pinoy. Dumaan man ang problema at pandemya, kayang-kayang lampasan. Basta't nagdadamayan at nagmamahalan.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Tuloy na tuloy pa rin ang Pasko dito sa V81 Radio, South Manila.
Ito ang paborito ng bawat Pilipino. Basta all hits, all Pinoy, panalo. Merong kwentong iyakan at tawanan. Kahit nasaan ka man ito'y mapapakinggan.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program anchors and producers and do not necessarily reflect the policies and position of this station. Discover the best-kept secrets in metaphysics, law of attraction, science, and spirituality, and listen to practical mystics from around the world. Let's open Pandora's box with Reverend Reg Stan, your metaphysical minister, here in Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, South Manila.
Satnam, everyone. My name is Reverend Reg, and I'm here again for Practical Magic, where we talk about metaphysics, the law of attraction, science and spirituality, coherence, the power of the spoken word, meditation, and anything that's related to this evolving field. And before we start, I want to invite everyone for a simple affirmation and chanting meditation. So please close your eyes. And take a deep breath in and out. Take a deep breath in and out. Let's take another one. Inhale and exhale. Please put your right palm on your heart and affirm with me, I love myself for all that I was, all that I am, and all that I want to become. I am worthy because God made me so. And let's chant one Satnam for ourselves, another one for someone we are praying for, and the rest for our global village. Satnam. 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 I invite all of you to feel that inner smile from your heart. You may gently open your eyes. All right, so that was awesome. And I'm very excited because today we're talking about the art and science of real magic. And we actually have the author behind it. And just a little trivia. One of the things that really excites me about this, about 2 years ago, I was in Baguio, and you know that place has high altitude, and I was there with friends for a retreat, and it was really an amazing evening with friends. We were drinking wine, and it was a very starry night, like a Vincent van Gogh thing. So anyway, at that time, I was thinking to myself, I always believe in magic and miracles, and thinking things through the power of the law of attraction and demonstrating it. And of course, I always have at the back of my mind, you still have to take inspired action when you do it. So I'm very excited because, when I first encountered the book, The Art and Science of Real Magic, I was really amazed because many years back then, when I would talk about the law of attraction, I sound like this silly person to friends and family where I'm this crazy dreamer. So today I'm so happy that there's actually a process to it, and someone who has expertise on this subject is going to talk about this tonight. So our guest for today is Dr. Deyara Bioni, who's the author of Magical Living and the Art and Science of Real Magic. So let me read to you her long background. So she's a certified spiritual life coach, mindfulness meditation teacher, and an artist. She brings together perennial wisdom and cutting edge scientific knowledge to facilitate profound transformation in her students and clients. And for her certificates and work, she has a PhD in metaphysical counseling, a master's degree in metaphysical science. She's also a certified mindfulness meditation teacher, a certified life coach, a certified NLP practitioner, certified hypnotherapy practitioner, certified EFT practitioner, heart math facilitator, science of mind practitioner, certified in energy healing modalities for Reiki levels 1 to 4, reconnective healing, and quantum healing. And this is a testimonial from Tosha Nichols from Ohio. Diana is a delight, and I love working with her. I take the life coaching sessions with her. She's very knowledgeable, calm, and patient with you. Diana allows you to open up and speak about what you believe are your major blocks, distractions, etc. She is very resourceful and has also helped me to achieve great personal meditation sessions. I'm now able to meditate in complete stillness, whereas before I could barely stay still without distraction. I would recommend her to anyone who may need guidance on meditations, their spiritual path awakening, and life mindset blocks in general. And another one from her client in United Kingdom, from Usha. Hi, I'm so happy to be able to write this review. I truly hope people can grasp the importance of Deyara Bioni. I have sat a few meditation classes and also had a live coaching session with Deyara Bioni over a period of 2 weeks. It was very apparent from the onset that Diana is very gifted and authentic in all the work she provides for others. She has beautiful, gentle soul and connects well to the energy and individuality. She's a wonderful, insightful coach and professional. Her guidance is of love and professionalism, kindness, and personal care, which is so nice to feel. I would recommend Diana to many people as I believe the world needs her service. I'm super pleased that the universe allowed our paths to cross. I will continue to attend Diana's classes as you cannot put a price on quality life coaching, healing, and peaceful life that Diana helps you discover. Thank you wholeheartedly, Diana, for all you bring to the world. Namaste. And another one from Harmony F. Encino from California. I've seen a veritable improvement in my mental health and spiritual growth since starting spiritual mind treatment. When I signed up, it was just for a basic meditation class. I didn't even know who she was. Boy, did I get the huge bonus of a spiritual teacher and mentor as well. With a veritable catalog of degrees and certifications, Diana offers a tremendous knowledge base and scientific background in the metaphysical world, by far the most of any teachers I've met. Basically, she's an expert in not just the woo-woo, but the bona fide science behind it. Beyond this, Diana possesses profound wisdom that goes beyond mere education. She is clearly connected, intuitive, and she harnesses this power to identify the root causes beneath your problems and as it follows to help you heal. Part of her magic is inspiring people to truly see themselves as the powerful, perfectly imperfect beings they are. Perhaps the first to practicing the real magic she specializes in. What drew me first to Diana was her remarkably calm, compassionate, and gentle approach. She meets people wherever they are without judgment or pressure. Having experienced serious difficulties in her past, she understands all manners of struggles. And watching her in action, it's abundantly clear that she genuinely cares about every person. It's not about the money or ego. She just wants to be of service. Additionally, I'm astounded by her humility. You would never know she has a PhD and impeccable credentials. Lastly, Diana seems to walk her own talk, a sign of a genuine teacher. In fact, her nature seems almost too calm, aligned, selfless, and ethereal to be real. I think she may be an angel on earth. So, wow, that's a long list of credentials and amazing reviews from her clients. So, I'm very excited for all of you to meet our guest today, Satnam, Dr. Vehuni. Are you there?
Satnam,
Awesome. So, how is it there in California?
it's good. It's very early morning, and I'm anticipating a beautiful day, regardless of everything that's
Awesome.
happening. That's my attitude for today, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. It's going to be very inspiring, I believe.
Yeah, thank you for making time for us. I know that this is really early for you. So I was going around your website, and one of the things that I've read there is that you've always been into science and spirituality. So can you please tell us more about your experience, especially in the past? People thought about those two fields of study as being separate. So to you, how did you reconcile understanding it and uh, reconciling both fields of study?
Yes, of course. My understanding of science and spirituality began, I believe, very early on. As I was growing up in a family of skeptics, I was very confused because in my family, and most members were either scientists or engineers or teachers, or very practical people. They did not necessarily believe in God. And in fact, they were more atheists in their views. I could feel that as I was growing up. And yet would go to church on different occasions, which made it very confusing. Like, why would you go to church if you don't believe in God? So as I was growing up, I was kind of going back and forth, from an atheist to, a very genuine attempt to be a believer, because I could tell, even if when I was really young, that people who believed in God had easier time with their lives. It seemed like they didn't feel as lonely, maybe because they knew there's somebody who was watching over them, and life seemed somehow more fair to them. I don't know, but was my impression. So I wanted to believe, and for short periods of time I succeeded, and then I will flip back to being an atheist. So it was a very much like that most of my younger years, but at the same time I knew I had this unique vision, unique understanding of the world. So
Were you not curious as a child that your parents or your family would go to church and yet they didn't believe in God? Did you not ask them why they had that practice, and yet on the belief level they didn't really believe in God? Were you not curious? Did you not ask them?
Not necessarily. It's just like one of the subjects we did not discuss at home, which made it even more confusing. It's like I was expected to choose what I, believed about the life, the universe, God, if there was any. Myself, it didn't seem something that we would talk about, and I did ask some questions, but I don't think I think probably the answer that I got was pretty much about everything else that I was questioning. That's what people do, so that's what we do. It's more like a cultural thing than.
Yeah. So I wanna have a follow-up question, because people normally, when they're in a problematic situation or a challenging situation, from our culture here in the Philippines, you would normally look up to God, higher consciousness, source, whatever that may be for the believer. What was it like for your family? So if they had a problem, since they were non-believers, how did they approach the challenge or the problem?
With their intellect, very logical, very practical. And in fact, that's exactly what you mentioned, was creating a little bit of a negative thing around spirituality. And not spirituality, because at the time for me, spirituality was only religion. I didn't know anything about spirituality. So for them, it was more of a negative thing, and even more of a concern. Like, people, when they get in trouble, or a difficult situation, they tend to seek help, and sometimes they go, to church and things like that. And that pretty much the idea was that they make them delusional, right? So so there's like a more of a negative thing about people who were true believers, religious people. So, and it still is, but now I understand it differently. It's because I understand religion and I understand spirituality, which are very different things in many ways. So at the time it was very confusing, and at the same time I had this very intense desire to know about the nature of reality, consciousness, and things like that. It was a very insatiable need of mine, more than probably most people. Most people, I believe, ask questions like, who are we? Why are we here? And is there God? What's the universe made of? And things like that. But
so how young were you? Sorry for interrupting. How young were you when you started asking questions like that?
I can't even tell how young. Probably very young. I don't know when I actually started voicing those questions, but within myself, I was always kind of curious. Sometimes I would have conversations with my mom, and she would say, like, yeah, we all wonder about, we look at the sky at night and wonder, like, who are we? Why are we here? And is there life out there? And things like that. And then we go back to life and do what we need to do and kind of forget about it. But for me, it was different. for me, it was essential to understand those things. And I couldn't go on with my life pretty much until I found some satisfying answers, even though we can all obviously not know everything. But I had to find the answer that satisfied me enough that I could build my life upon that understanding.
Yeah. So as a kid growing up, like when you were about 10 years old, when you had a bit of understanding of people's conversations, was it also about the same time when you had conversations like that with your mom?
I can't remember exactly the age, but I remember what I remember distinctly was my confusion was coming from thinking, when you're young, you think that adults are smart, right? So I
Yeah.
was very confused when they're talking about different religions, and each religion was claiming that their God was the real God. So that made me very confused. So I thought, if when I grow up, it's probably going to make sense to me somehow, because when I was young, it didn't make any sense. And of course, when I grew up, I realized that they're not that smart, and very, very much confused. Even more so, probably when I was as a kid. And it's more or less it was an intuitive thing for me. It took a while for it to become a conscious, process of seeking the truth and understanding and learning and all of that, and that began later on. But at that age, it was more of an internal, intuitive process, just wondering, because it's difficult to know what's right and wrong, or because you can't compare yourself to others. Your inner experience is very unique and it's yours, so you don't even know what others' experience is like. So even externally, my family was very skeptical. I don't know what internally they actually believed, if they actually did believe in God. So it's a very personal thing, I believe. Spirituality. That's what I discovered.
Yeah. So thank you for answering that. And can you please elaborate more on differentiating spirituality and religion for our viewers?
Yeah, probably the best way I like to describe it is using the words of Michael Bernard Beckwith with from Agape, and some of you might have heard of him. He says, religion is for those who are afraid to go to hell. Spirituality is for those who've been there. So I believe most people come to spirituality after going through hell, and
Yeah.
a lot of times being disappointed in their religion's views and many other things. So the main thing you would say about spirituality, that there is no dogma, and you don't believe in one God, one supernatural being who created everything. And there are many distinctions, but that's probably the one most important that I hope people understand, because a lot of people don't understand. And in many cases, the spirituality and religion go as like one thing. And I believe that's unfortunate that there is no enough understanding of what spirituality really is. And spirituality and science, as you said, I was able to reconcile, but I would not be able to reconcile science and religion. Because the biggest problem, I think, about religion, and there are many problems with that, is the superstition, right? And I think that's exactly what science was trying to get rid of when it was going against religion, and it was a
Can
good
you
thing.
please? Yeah, thank you for that. Can you please give us an example of a superstition that religion has imposed on its followers that may go against the understanding of science?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, like it depends how far back you go in history and which culture, which religion. But it's just the probably most obvious one that religion was able to keep people in fear, and
Yeah.
became a means of manipulating people
Yes.
by, using it, their fear of death, like and fear
Yes.
of all kinds of things. Like, you have to do this, you have to pay this money, you have to, I mean, it's something that is so common knowledge, and probably not necessarily to even go and describe, but there's so many superstitions.
Yeah. I like what you mentioned about fear, because yesterday was October 10, 2020, and it's Mental Health Awareness Day. And 16 years ago, I actually had suicidal thoughts, and it came from having experienced severe guilt and shame. And that was triggered by fear that because I failed at something and it was a major failure for me. I was 19 years old back then, and I put myself in a place where I took a leave of absence because I really felt it was going to work out. And I failed at it. So you could just imagine that, hey, I put myself out there 100%, and then this thing happened. So after that incident, it really took time for me to get my groove back. And it's so important what you mentioned, because a lot of people, especially in my country, they don't have the awareness that if you're triggered by guilt and shame and fear in any form, it will actually create problems in your mind, body, and affairs. And it's something that I want to bring into the awareness of people, that all these things are actually interconnected, because we keep solving problems at the tip. We don't really go through the root cause of it. So I'm glad that you mentioned about it, because you can keep working so hard at trying to solve a particular problem. But if you don't have that awareness that this fear-based triggers are the ones that are actually causing you the problems in any area of your life, then you're going to be in a cycle of problems. And then you think that's the nature of reality. So thank you for bringing it up. And I want to bring up as well, because I know you're a meditation teacher, and with your meditation classes, obviously people have very good reviews about your meditation. So this meditation, what does it do actually for an individual in terms of mental and emotional well-being?
Yes. Before I answer that question, I just wanted to quickly mention what you said about guilt and shame and fear. And yeah, that's obviously that one of the biggest problem with that I have with religion is installing that guilt very early on in children. And that
Yeah.
really ruins your life in ways you don't even realize. And that's something that is so, I mean, people come from religious background and they're traumatized by their religion. That's not real spirituality.
Yeah.
It's not healthy at all in any way. So meditations, I offer mindfulness meditations, but I do many kinds with a different purpose. Generally, they evolve around helping people in connecting to their inner wisdom, their higher self, or that place within themselves that where they truly are who they are. That place that was never born and will never die, that place within themselves that is eternal, their soul, whatever they want to call it. I'm very flexible with my language. I don't want to sound like I'm choosing specific terms because of any specific reason. I like to cover it all because it's very universal. I like to, so anybody from any religion can benefit from this meditations, and people who don't believe in any God, or very scientific as well, and because science is part of what I do.
Yeah.
So meditations are generally for that, to connect to that place and allow that voice, they call it still small voice of our intuition, to speak up. And because it is always speaking to us, but we are so busy with the chatter in our mind, we don't listen to it, we don't hear it. So my goal with meditations oftentimes is to help people to hear that voice and begin acting upon those upon that guidance, which really transforms people's lives in every direction. You know, it's in every dimension of their lives, from relationships to career to health. And because I truly believe, even in my life coaching, I truly believe that the client has all the answers. I'm not telling them what they should do. Never.
Yeah.
It's all about helping them see beyond their own limitations, and that's how they transform. So my meditation is very much designed to go with other services that I offer. All they can be done on their own, and as you said, people love it. So
Yeah.
beautiful.
And actually, I love the meditation on the presence that you made. I listened to it. I downloaded it from YouTube. So if the followers can actually listen to it, I think it's one of the best meditations that I've listened to. And I constantly listen to it because I think one of the best things that meditation can do for you is to help you release first all the tension, whatever that is, that's clouding your judgment and is driving your emotions insane for whatever reason, whatever triggers there are. And I like it a lot because it has helped me bring my awareness with better clarity. And I feel that I'm more efficient and effective at the work that I do after a couple of days that I've been listening to it, or maybe 2 months, I think. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Absolutely. I as I said, I do different kind of meditations, and you're right that's where it begins. We need to become still. We need to be able to relax, and really, it's sometimes it's that simple, just relaxing the body. So I spend usually quite a bit of time in the meditation and in guiding my students to relax. And because when our body is relaxed, it's functioning completely differently, and not just the physical body, but the mind as well. So we cannot really transform when we are we are tense and agitated and things like that. So that is really becoming present, and that's where, because it is in the present moment, that transformation can happen. So that's another key. Mm-hmm.
And actually, I like what Tosha, one of your clients, mentioned, where she said she was able to meditate in stillness, because I'm the type I like to record things. I want to see my progress. So for example, if I do it on a Monday and then I journal, this is what happened to me. So I'd meditate with the light closed, just listening to the meditation. And personally, for me, I like it because I noticed that aside from being efficient and having more clarity in my awareness, one of the things that I noticed is whatever tension in the body I used to feel, I don't feel that as much. And I'm more sensitive to the emotions that I get, especially the other day. Jennifer Hill, who's the talk show host for LA Radio, she was mentioning about she has this meditation practice, and then you suddenly realize when you're meditating constantly that there are certain energies that are yours, but you will also realize that you're picking up on other people's energies that's causing you tension or anxiety. Can you please explain more? Because I'm sure you have information about it when we pick up from other people's energies, or we pick up from the energy of the space.
Yes, absolutely. How deep we want to go into that, but we are immersed, all of us, in this field of energy, of frequency, and that field we generate from our bodies, from our heart and our mind, and its connection into the field. So we are literally transmitting that energy, that frequency into the field where we go. So people who are interacting with each other, and it's not necessarily even in person, because as we know, that energy is not only local, it's non-local as well. So because everything is connected. So we do influence each other's fields, and therefore we influence each other's emotions and state of being and their thinking. And that's a good thing, and it could be a bad thing. It depends, like how aware we are of it. Because when we're not aware, we are constantly being influenced by others' drama, right? And there's a lot of drama in the world. So if you're not aware, especially if you're a sensitive person, if you're an empath, if you're not aware, you're going to get overwhelmed very quickly. And unfortunately, that's exactly what's happening with many people. And that's why it is so important to have a spiritual practice these days. If you don't have it already, it's really, now is the time to begin, because it makes all the difference. I mean, I'm so grateful to have my practice, because it would have been very difficult to go for somebody like me through that amount, that kind of negativity, that heaviness, that I can feel it. I can feel it. And if I don't do my practice and I don't pay attention to what's going on, really what's going on inside me, I would start feeling it very strongly. So, but luckily I have developed a lot of abilities to be very conscious of everything that's going on. So I invite everybody to pay attention to what's going on and really understand the emotions that you feel, because emotions can be very confusing. They're very powerful, right? I like to describe them as our GPS system, as like a compass. They're kind of feedback mechanism that tells us whether we are going in the right direction, making the right choices in our lives, and so forth. But at the same time, they can be very confusing, because just think about it. You can feel differently emotionally just by eating certain food, right? Or not eating food. Like, again, as a sensitive person, I can feel it very easily when I don't eat for a long time, especially after having a lot of sweets, that my blood sugar will sometimes drop a little bit, and I'll start feeling very negative, and I have negative thoughts and so forth. Or even sometimes when you're just tired, you begin very, your neocortex, which is the newest part of your brain, is not functioning as well. So you kind of fall back to your default, which is your limbic brain, and that is your emotional center. And suddenly you remember all the negative things that happened to you, and you believe, because you feel it. The emotions are real. They convince you that it's whatever you're feeling is true about whoever or whatever. And yet the only thing that changed was that your physiology changed, because you haven't had enough food, or you are tired.
Yes.
And so forth.
I love that you're mentioning this, because I noticed this about me, especially with the meditation practice, that I cry a lot when I'm very, very tired.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful in a way, because at least I'm releasing it. I'm not keeping it.
Good.
So I'm not sure for other people, but I think you really need to have an outlet for whatever that is. And what would you recommend, Dr. Vihuni? Because for me, I find that aside from meditation, I really find it very helpful to exercise and really sweat it out. What other things would you recommend our viewers to do?
Yes, absolutely. Meditation, exercise is proven scientifically many times that it really improves your mental health as well as your physical health. So definitely, because it produces all the endorphins in the brain and so forth. But it's really an easy way and free. If not, some cases, I guess you have to go to the gym, you have to pay, but you can simply do exercise at home or dance or go for a jog or something. Meditation and breathing, that would be one of the most important things I would mention, because again, even with we're mentioning how emotions can be affected by our physical state, and breathing is such key. If you try and breathe very shallow breaths for a period of time, you're going to probably start feeling very negative as well, especially people who are struggling with things like depression and anxiety in general. For them, it's a key. It's really important to create some kind of a practice around breathing, and it could be very simple, just doing it in the morning or doing it with yoga. That's why yoga is another beautiful way to improve our mental health as well as the physical health. And of course, things like affirmations, just reading the right things and not reading the wrong things, reading the negativity, just minimizing the negative stimuli from the external world, keeping it to the minimum. I mean, we want to know what's going on in the world, but again, as once we know what's happening, we don't necessarily need to dwell on it for a long periods of time. And that's because that's what really creates all kinds of problems mentally, emotionally, and ultimately physically as well, if you do it long enough.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, because another thing that I also want to bring up, because you said you have to minimize the negativity. I know that you're also an art teacher. So how early did you actually start with your art? And I've listened to one of your interviews, and I think you were talking about your work as a raw artist. How long have you been doing your work as an artist?
Yeah, I've been painting since I was very young. Actually, I started painting, creating art, but I never imagined that could be a profession. For me, choosing to be an artist was kind of an act of rebellion, you can say, because I didn't want to do any of the other things that was gonna limit me in the ways of expression. And I didn't, because I grew up having this very different views of the world. It was such important thing for me not to contribute to the problems in the world, which I saw, problems in every system, whether it was education, healthcare, judicial, you name it. There was problem, and not even in this country, but pretty much in a lot of places. It's eventually I realized it's a problem of consciousness, but I didn't want to do something that's been done for many years in a way that was not really right, in my opinion. So I didn't want to go into any of that. So I chose to be an artist, and I was good at it. I was, people could.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes. And so that kind of became my thing, and became my language, my way of expression, because I was extremely introverted. I did not really express myself because I felt that something was wrong with me. I was one of those people who grew up feeling that I was kind of in the wrong place. I just didn't belong. I didn't feel like I belonged where I was. And for me, my language of expression became art, and it was very healing for me at the time, because I was struggling with a lot of depression and anxiety as well. So that's kind of what led me to become an artist. And I don't do art as much now. It's more about, so I still sell it. I still use my artistic talents, I guess, for my work, but it's not so much of creativity. And it's always been like that. I will go through a period of creating nonstop, and then I'll go through a period of not creating as much. So I trust that flow, and I know I'm going to be painting a lot again at the right time. But for now, this is what's going on, and it is a little bit of a challenge, and it's always been balancing the creativity. I think that's even more about that, just balancing creativity and the practical aspects of life, of which I've been dealing with all my life. So that's a whole different thing.
I actually, one of the things that I love about your book, The Art and Science of Real Magic, are the paintings in the book, because I love going to art galleries, especially when my late teacher, Dr. George Season, was still alive. We frequent a lot of art galleries. It bring me to a lot of art shows. So I'd be around always for art exhibits of the best artists here in the Philippines. And I like the book because when you look at the book, The Art and Science of Real Magic, you'll see paintings there, and it's very healing. And if I'm correct, I think some of them are Fibonacci sequence. Am I right, Dr. Vehuni?
Yes, I have some images of fractals. I just wanted to be clear that only some of those images are mine. I used a lot of other images because for me to create that many art pieces would take a lot of time, which I believe it's not the most efficient way to spend my time. But I did add, like if you see the words on the images, and I altered them in many ways, and I added the words and so forth to help the people to understand the book better. I think some of those concepts can be quite daunting for people who are new to science and spirituality or the metaphysics. So I do have some fractals because I talk about fractals and about the holographic nature of reality. And I think people, and by the way, if people want to see the book, they can download it for free on my website, and I probably will mention it later, but it's available.
Yeah, thank you for that. And another thing that I wanted to discuss as well, aside from the things that we mentioned earlier, we'll talk more about the book. But for now, we'll have to take a short break, and we'll be back again later to talk more about the book and the aspects of the book that I truly resonate with. So stay tuned, everyone.
We'll be back shortly. This is Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, South Manila. Connected ka na ba para laging updated sa mga bagong shows, promos, trending news, viral videos, events, o patok na OPM hits? Just follow us on Facebook at V81 Radio South Manila. Simple lang, itype lang ang letter V81 Radio South Manila. O di ba madali lang? Kaya i-like at i-follow na. Gusto niyo ba ng bagong tracks na mapapakinggan ngayong October?
Pwede bang magpakilala that I better left us from walking? But sabi mo, hindi mo ko iwan.
Abangan at tumutok lang tuwing Sunday, 1 p.m. dito sa Napalm, your new all-Pinoy alternative music source. At makijam, kasama sina Ram Martinez, Isotone, at CD and the Years. Dito lang yan sa Napalm, your new all-Pinoy alternative music source. Exclusively on V81 Radio, South Manila. Kabayan, nahuhomesick ka ba? I-download na ang aming mobile app at mag-enjoy sa mga kantang tatak Pinoy and feel like you're home. The V81 Radio mobile app, available in the App Store and Google Play Store. V81 Radio mobile app, free now, free forever. Are you ready to explore a new kind of music? Yung bang kakaiba na hindi mo pa napapakinggan, mga bagong artist? Nagugulat sa inyo sa kanilang awit at tugtugan. Discover them, hear them in Napalm Hour. Ang NAPAM ay ang new all-Pinoy alternative music source na para sa kakaibang musika. Alternative artists and bands all the time. Catch them at NAPAM Hour. Mondays through Fridays, 12 noon to 1 p.m. and 8 to 9 p.m. Streaming live on V81 Radio mobile app. Kaya i-download mo na for free. Now na! Talagang October to remember dahil hindi din pahuhuli ang ibang Viva OPM artists na sasabak sa kantahan sa Home Not Alone Songs From Home Season 2 kasama si Papa Gio, Yumi Laksamana, Isid, Solstice, Just Rap, and Sabu. Kaya iset nyo na ang mga kalendaryo nyo tuwing Merkules 7 p.m. California time o Huwebes 10 a.m. Pinas time. At samahan si Papa Gio para makipagkulitan, awanan at kantahan sa Home Not Alone Songs From Home Season 2. Dito yan sa V81 Radio, Los Angeles. Now back to Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, South Manila.
Satnam, everyone. I'm back with Dr. Deyara Bioni, and we're talking about her book, The Art and Science of Real Magic, and the workbook, Magical Living. So, it's something that's very amazing for me because a lot of people are talking about the law of attraction, and it's a really amazing introduction to what the power of the mind can do for you to demonstrate what you want. And another thing that all right. So anyway, I got confused because I was hearing myself. So anyway, we're talking about the Magical Living workbook, which I personally have gone through. And another thing is the Art and Science of Real Magic book. And I like the combination of both because a lot of us are talking about the power of the mind. A lot of people are asking me about it in my show, putting things in perspective. But I'm excited because the author of the book herself is discussing the process. So, my first question to you, Dr. Vehuni, is I noticed that your content focused more on magic and to explain the science and spirituality, the metaphysics behind manifesting. Why did you choose magic as the central topic for your discussion?
Yes, actually choosing the word magic, or more specifically real magic, to differentiate it from other kinds of magic, I chose it because it was my intuitive feeling. Again, it was not a marketing strategy or anything. It's when I had my experiences of overcoming incredible challenges and creating what appeared to be a miracle on more and more regular basis, it seemed like magic to me. And I understood the science behind it. I understood the mechanics behind it. So that's why I call it real magic, because it's not black magic, it's not even white magic, I would say, even though it's connected in some ways, and it's not occult magic. So sometimes I have to explain what magic is, and I understand because people are confused, like, what do you mean by magic? So to me, real magic is about using our ability, and I like to call us magicians, and we have this magic wand, which is our subconscious mind, which is incredibly powerful. And of course, just using our subconscious mind means a lot more than just thinking about something, right? It's a very superficial understanding of, if you think about something, it's going to show up in your life. It's more complex than that, although it sometimes appears to be as simple. But real magic is about using that magic wand to create all kinds of miracles in our lives, which, we call them miracles because we don't know how to create them more often. Otherwise, they will be commonplace and that'd be like a normal way of being, just creating things that we want. And for me, it's been a struggle for many years to learn. And I started almost 20 years ago to learn all of these things. And I got into law of attraction, which is wonderful. And my understanding of it was not complete. And I unfortunately fell into that hole of being really disappointed because as I was using it and following all the instructions in the books, I was expecting to create an incredible life for myself. And unfortunately, the exact opposite happened. So I was very confused, which over time led me to go even deeper and study everything that I studied to really understand what is law of attraction and why it didn't work and why it does work and so forth. So when I finally was able to apply everything I've learned, I started having these magical experiences, and I will fall into this state of being, and everything in it is like I would be in an altered state of consciousness, in a different reality, in a different dimension, if you like everything was just happening so incredibly beautifully. So to me, that's real magic.
Yes. Thank you for that. So I like what you mentioned about being able to actually do it repeatedly, or because I think it's very powerful to realize, especially in the book, one of the things that you mentioned that really gave me a better way to articulate what I was saying to my friends, for lack of better term or a process that I could explain to them, about the spiritualists and the mentalists and the materialists, where the three of them are going to talk about it, and the other one thinks that their point of view is more important in the process of manifesting. But in truth, you actually have to go through the process. Can you please explain it further? Because I'm very sure that our viewers will be very happy to know that simple process, that they're actually happening one after the other. And it's not a matter of choosing that this is the only thing that I like. It's only the spiritual aspect of it, or the mental aspect of it, or the materialist aspect of it that I like. Because I think it's so important to understand that it's actually a process.
Yes, so the process, you're right, it involves all of it. I believe we are, I know that we are multidimensional beings, and not necessarily in a more mystical way, but in a very practical way as well. We have the physical dimension, we have mental, emotional, we have energetic, and we have spiritual. So to be able to create and to be able to live fully and heal fully, whatever we want to do it on all levels, ideally. So I will always like to begin with spiritual, because we are essentially spiritual beings having a physical experience. So spirituality is number one for me, but it's usually not enough. So we begin, that's why generally the process is begins with finding, as I said, connecting to that place within ourselves, that inner wisdom or the higher self or God within, whatever you want to call it, and let it speak the truth of who you are and who you want to be beyond your ego. right? Beyond
Yes.
your perceptions and your conditioning, because a lot of us don't know who we really are, because as we were growing up, we were told who we are by well-meaning parents, and unfortunately, they didn't even realize how much damage they have done by trying to be a good parent. And
Yes.
right, a lot of people are not, they're just not ready to bring another human into the world. But that's what people do, that they get married, they have children, and they do their best, they trust to bring them up. And at the same time, most of the things most parents do are not serving their children in their highest best and best. So that's why it is so crucial, pretty much in every case with every person, to connect to that place and let their higher self speak about who they are and what is their greatest vision of themselves. Because I truly believe we
I
all have,
love that.
yes, our unique genius that wants to be expressed, and that is the purpose of our life, because we are an expression of the divine in a very unique form, and there is only one of you, right? There's just never ever another one. So that's another reason to appreciate and respect and love yourself.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about the self, because when we talk about the self, people think that your authentic self is the one that's actually made up of the one that has screwed up so many times in the past, the one that's filled with insecurities, and the one that keeps coming up short in terms of having a vision for your life. But in your book, you're actually clarifying the concept of the true self and how a person can actually shift from the part of them that's limited and insecure, and going to that aspect of themselves that can actually deliver the greatest life possible for an individual. Especially, it for me, it deleted this erroneous programming in the past where I'd be so conscious about me going to the process of demonstrating my goal. That's part of my big vision. And then be held back so many times because of all the screwed decisions that I had in the past. So now that I am focused on that aspect of myself, the way you explained the true self, it clarified so much about how I was gonna go through the process, especially when I went over the workbook where you said if you have to make a decision and you're going to try to manifest something where you're listing down 15 to 20 items of the things that you need to do. Of course, in the beginning, there may be a series of suggestions from your mind that may not be the most ideal, but as you keep trying to get from yourself that 15 to 20 things, then you're going to be able to come up with something that you haven't really thought about. And then you have to take action immediately so that you will not be overpowered by your patterns, so that you can override your patterns. So I actually have manifested a lot from it, following that formula. So you see, to our viewers, I think this is so important, why we need workbooks like this and why we need to understand processes like this in order to overcome some of the patterns that we've had in the past. And there are actually a lot of them. So Dr. Vehuni, what do you think would be most ideal for someone? Especially, we know that there's this feeling of inertia in the beginning. You're trying to overcome and you're wanting to demonstrate. I'm very sure that over a long period of time, you've come up with other tools to overcome, not just through writing it down, but I'm sure you have other things that people can use so that they can override their patterns? Aside from writing it down, what do you think should a person do to override their patterns? Aside from writing it down, aside from meditation.
Right. And as I said, we begin by connecting to that place and discovering what it is. Probably going to discover something that we knew all along, right? It's not going to be new, something that's part of us that always wanted the same thing. And the exercise you mentioned from the book is one way to get beyond our analytical mind, the mind that is, it's useful in many ways, but at the same time, there's the part of it that is very limiting because it's trying to analyze. And when you say like, I have this dream, I want to create this, I want to have $1 billion, why not? Some people make it with ease. For some people that's an easy thing to make, and the mind immediately goes and like, oh, how am I going to do that? It never happened before, and so on and so forth. So that exercise, along with others, is helping us to get beyond the conditioning, beyond our logical mind, and connect to that place that now knows that we are more powerful than we ever imagined, and there are resources available to us that we never even thought of. So to be able to do that, we have to, as you said, bypass our conditioning and change our patterns. So once we know what is it that we want, who we really are, we begin to create a vision for ourselves that we continuously feed. So most of us are spending most of our time either thinking about our past or projecting a future based on the past, because that's the known, that's the only thing we know. And that's what we anticipate, that's what we prepare for. A lot of times something bad, because that's our defense mechanism, right, working. Like we want to imagine the worst case scenario, so we're prepared for it, and then we end up creating it without even realizing that we do that. So we want to be consciously creating a vision for ourselves, for our future, and making it, and that's where meditation is key, because we go into that state and we create that vision and we make it more refined, we make it more emotionally attractive, right? So to the point that we are so in love with that vision of the future that we simply don't want to waste our energy or our thoughts, which are our currency. That's how we create our reality, with our thoughts, our emotions, our attention, right? So we want to invest that into the future we want to create, instead of unknowingly, by default, investing into the past or the kind of future we don't want. So that's really where the magic is, but we want to do it enough that it literally rewires our whole system. It rewires our brain, it rewires us physiologically, all the way to our gene expression that changes based on our thinking and feeling in a whole different way on continuous basis, right? Not just once. We don't do just affirmation once and then forget about it, right? That's really not going to do much.
Thank you for that. Yes. I like that we're having this conversation, because many times, like I mentioned earlier, our patterns override us. But one of the things that Dr. Vehuni has mentioned to me in the past, that really helped me a lot, especially when I'm in a limited situation where I'm about to go back to my patterns, is asking myself, what is the most empowering thing that I can do in the moment? Thank you for that. And we'll pause for a short break, and we'll be right back. Satnam, everyone.
We'll be back shortly. This is Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, South Manila. Are you ready to explore a new kind of music? Yung bang kakaiba na hindi mo pa napapakinggan, mga bagong artist? Nagugulat sa inyo sa kanila. Ang NAPAM ay ang new all-Pinoy alternative music source na para sa kakaibang musika.
Except now,
Alternative artists and bands all the time. Catch them at NAPAM Hour. Mondays through Fridays, 12 noon to 1 p.m. and 8 to 9 p.m. Streaming live on V81 Radio mobile app. Kaya i-download mo na for free. Now na! A spirit-filled song that talks about healing from the Lord Jesus Christ, our great healer. Lumi on V81 Radio.
Ikot paturo ko dahil ang ngayon at ang bukas.
Now back to Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, South Manila.
except now, everyone. So I'm back here in Practical Magic at V81 Radio South Manila. So earlier, I was sharing to all of you that when we're trying to make changes in our lives, because we're in this process of manifesting something, whatever that may be, we have patterns in the past, and our tendency is to actually go back to our patterns. And it takes a great deal of strength and incredible decision making to actually say that I'm not going to go back to that pattern. I'm going to choose a different reality, or I'm going to make a new decision. So one of the things that has helped me a lot working with Dr. Vehuni is asking myself, what's the most empowering thing that I can do in the moment? And that has shifted me a lot in terms of overcoming my patterns. So Dr. Vehuni, can you please talk more about it, about empowerment and, you know, making decisions coming from that place of strength?
Yes, as you mentioned, that's the hardest thing to do, because a lot of people get inspired, read a book or go to a workshop, or you know, they hear something or see something and they get really inspired and they start doing the work, and they do it for a few days or maybe a few weeks, and maybe they get some results or no results, and they give up because it is difficult to maintain this new
Yes.
patterns, as you said. And the reason why we go back to our old patterns is because they're already wired in our brain. And those are literally circuits in our brain of neurons that, because we've been using them in the same way for many, many years, they are, you know, they say the neurons that fire together wire together. And because they've been firing in the same sequence for over and over and over, they are literally wired. So to change that, it's a process. So that's one of the reasons I love neuroscience, because it physically shows us how this is happening in our brain, and it explains why it is so difficult. So the way to change it, it's not about not thinking about something that we don't want to think about, because that doesn't work. The only way we can change those patterns is creating new patterns, because there's only so much energy in the brain, you can say, or so many ways those neurons can connect. So by creating new connections, you dissolve the old ones. Basically, that's the only way you can do it. That's why we want to create, instead of trying to fight our past and trying to forget it or do anything with it, we want to create our future that is so beautiful that we, as I said, we don't want to spend our energy and our time and our attention on the negativity or the things, relationships from the past that don't serve us any longer, anger, judgment, resentment, whatever it is. We simply don't want to do that, and it becomes much easier to make that choice. Again, I'm not saying that there is no benefit in going into the past and doing therapy and things like that. I believe that has its place, and it's very valuable in many cases, especially if there's been trauma or some serious negative event in the past, or if there's like a mental disorder or things like that. And in those cases, therapy could be incredibly valuable. But again, we don't want to dwell on our past more than it's absolutely necessary. We want to create something new.
Yes.
So that is one way we do it. And obviously, it's the repetition. It's consistency. And that's where it becomes difficult, as I said. That's why we want to have the support. And one of the most important reasons I do the work that I do, because on my journey, I was trying to do it on my own. And I did for a long time because I didn't find anybody who I could trust and I could relate to. And when I found actually somebody, a support, somebody who would listen to me and talk to me in a way that was helpful, it completely transformed my journey. It became much easier, and I was able to take these huge leaps very quickly. And that's why I realized the importance of having the right kind of support. And it can be a professional support, like a life coach or therapist, or whatever, or it could be friend or community, all of the above. But that's one of the first things that I suggest people. I actually highly encourage people to find that support, because that allows us to stay consistent with our new choices and not fall back to our default patterns of the past, which, as I said, we already wired that way, and it's very easy to fall back to the default, especially when things go wrong, or we're tired and things like that. So we have.
And I also want to add to what you were saying. This is from your book. If you find your commitment level is not a 10, perhaps you're not dreaming big enough, or you're borrowing somebody else's dream. So many people get lost in the mindset that it's only thinking about it. So I like the part where you were talking about taking responsibility for one's creation, because it's true what you mentioned. You decide to do something, and then the variables, people, circumstances that you were envisioning to happen, it doesn't really work out that way after you've meditated about it, or after you decide to journal about a particular scenario in the future, and the variables get shaken, and then suddenly it gets so uncomfortable. And if you don't have the support, you're going to give up easily. And if you're not committed enough, then it's easy to actually go back to your fearful panic mode and then drop the whole practice. So last week, I want to share to our viewers, I shared about a particular time where I was in an apartheid for about 2 months, and I was also working with Dr. Deyara Bioni. It was one of those periods in my life where I could have chickened out and just go back to our family home because that's what's expected of majority of people in our culture, that you stay in the family home and then you stay there for a really long period of time. And most people at a very late age in life, they still stay in the family home. I'm happy if people are there for reasons that are expanding themselves. But I think if you're there just because you think that you won't make enough money if you leave the house, I don't think that that's an ideal reason to be in the place. So thank you, Dr. Vehuni, for being one of those supporters because it was awesome. At that time, I was there for about 2 months. I would work with her from time to time. And on my final day in that apartel, I had that phone call all of a sudden with Dr. Anita Caprice. So in the show last week, she mentioned that I helped her out with feeling open and receptive to help from her children. And then she helped me out with myself releasing all my feelings of guilt and shame because I'm not able to fit into the mold of what my family was expecting of me. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I know that I'm very aware of the work that I was doing with you. And I know that coming to that space where I was going to meet a mom, where we're going to have that healing conversation where we don't really usually talk. And then all of a sudden it comes up. It was healing for her. It was healing for me. Those things actually happen if you're very aware. And I'm very appreciative of that, that you were one of those people who supported me, because if not for that, I could have easily gotten back to my old way of making decisions. And that's why I encourage our viewers to check out the website and her work, because alongside the testimonials mentioned about her earlier, I'm also one of those who benefited from her work. So anyway, moving on, because we talked about having a commitment to the practice. And this is the part where people get sidetracked because a lot of people are thinking, hey, I'm just supposed to think about it. There's no action portion that's thoroughly explained. Dr. Vehuni, how important is the physical action component? Because we know there's a mental action taking place. What's the physical action component? What's the weight of it in terms of manifestation? Can you please explain more about it?
Yes, I do believe that taking physical actions is very helpful. I can't say it's absolutely necessary. I mean, maybe there are in some cases situations where pretty much money lands in your lap. Like it's even then you still have to do something with it, right? Even if you win a lottery, which supposedly is the easiest way to get a lot of money, you still have to buy the ticket, you have to cash it, you have to do a lot of things. So physical action in this dimension is necessary. We cannot go beyond that. So even though we are working on the level of energy and consciousness, still we are living in the physical body. And that's why this, we call it universal intelligence, the divine spirit, God, whatever we want to call it, that to create the physical results, which we really want, right? We don't want just results in our consciousness. We want the physical results. We need to function through a physical body.
Yes.
Like it needs hands and feet. It needs the body to create the physical results because we are operating on the physical level. So the difference is when people are trying to create something only through actions, and meaning their actions are not coming from a deeper place. They are coming from their, intellect, their logical mind, and that works, but usually it takes longer time. We are like matter creating matter, right? So it's limited. It takes longer time. It is usually more difficult, and there's a lot of things that get in the way of matter. And you like imagine you're trying to get through a lot of things to be able to get to what you want. So working on the energetic level and consciousness level, and supporting that with physical actions that are in alignment with that vision, that makes it super powerful. And that's why I believe taking actions is really important. And they need to be the right actions. They need to be inspired actions. They're not necessarily, it's not a lot of hard work, right?
Yes.
We think like we have to work hard, do something we don't want to do, or for a long period of time. That's wrong kind of action. We need to take the right inspired action. And if you do it for the reasons that, that you are here for, that your higher vision for yourself, that your purpose of being here, even if it takes work, it is so rewarding. It doesn't feel like work because you enjoy the process, and that's really key. Actions.
I believe in what you're saying, because you know how I feel about doing what I love to do. Even if there are challenges along the way, I still feel that feeling of expansion in my heart and that feeling of inspiration. So even if there are challenges along the way, which I have openly discussed many times in my Facebook wall and in the shows, I still feel that emotional satisfaction from it. And every time I go into this place where I have to follow what other people are saying, it's not that I don't listen to other people, but I listen to other people whom I think whom I resonate with in terms of how I want to approach the situation. Because it's so different. I've noticed this when I just talk to my friends who have no idea how consciousness works. I value their concern, but normally it comes from a place of love, but coupled with fear and doubt. But when I'm talking to someone who has the experience and the background of how metaphysics works, the law of attraction works, the amazing thing that happens is that they ask me certain questions that pull out the magic in me. Like what you mentioned earlier, what's the most empowering thing that you can do in this situation? So anyway, I still want us to talk more about the art and science of real magic, but we're coming to a close already. So is there anything else that you would like to share to our viewers as your final words, Dr. Vehuni, for this episode?
I just want to remind you that you are a powerful, spiritual, creative being, and there is this incredible intelligence within you that wants to be expressed. That divine urge is within you right now, and I invite you to pay more attention to your desires and also to your discontent, because that indicates in which ways you're not growing and expanding. So all your emotions are feedback. As I said, there are no wrong emotions or bad emotions, and they just wanted to teach you. And I want to invite you to become more conscious of what's going on within you, and connect that place within you that wants to be expressed more fully. And as I mentioned, just creating that vision, creating a space in which you can evolve, surrounding yourself with supporting people, whether they're friends, community, or a coach, and investing in yourself, because that's really the only thing that matters, because you want to be there for yourself in a gentle, kind, and yet very firm way, and continuously growing and expanding into your fullest potential. That's really my highest desire for you. And there are many tools available. If you want to check my website and my work, it's my website is my name, which is DeyaraBioni.com. And as Reverend Reg mentioned, I have a couple of books that you can download. There's a lot of good information. I also offer free meditations and prayer circles on Sundays. And you're welcome to join and just experience my work. And I do have a lot of other content on YouTube, and I'm on social media, but the best place to find all of that would be on my website. So I want to wish you a most beautiful evolution, because the world needs dreamers that actually take actions and do what they're here to do. And there are a lot of people. It just sometimes we need a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of encouragement and support to become all we can be. And that's my sincere wish for you. And I'm here to support you in any way I can. And thank you, Reverend Reg, for inviting me. And I'm so happy to see everything that you accomplished in the period of time that we talked and we worked together. And I knew from the beginning that you're going to be a huge success. And I see that happening now. And I'm so super happy and grateful, because I could see how committed you were, taking notes every time and just practicing. And that's really an example of how success is made, right? And it's made founded on the spiritual foundation of who you are as a human being, which is very special. And thank you so much again. I'm really, really grateful for you and all you do.
Yes, likewise. Thank you so much, Dr. Vehuni. I'm very sure that you have many clients and students, including me, who are continuously excited every day about all the magic and miracles that can actually unfold in a bigger, better, more emotionally satisfying way from the inside out. Because honestly, for me, one of the things that I want to end this show with in this episode is this conversation I was having with you through chat, where one time I was really feeling really down, and then you mentioned about character, that you're building character and it's not actually easy to do it, because I'm so happy that a lot of people are talking about mind power, law of attraction, the power of emotions. Everyone's reading about it. And there's still work to be done, especially in what's really happening internally, which Eric Butterworth was calling involution. Aside from evolution, the outer transformation that's taking place, the involution, the inner transformation that's taking place. Of course, in the past, I didn't always have the highest, best decisions. And it got me in a lot of trouble. But the amazing thing is, when you hear it from a teacher who tells you that it's not just about the speed of your manifestation, but really ingrains in you the spiritual aspect of how things are manifested. And sharing it to you bluntly, that there's a character building aspect that's going on. So you stop comparing yourself to other people, why they have abundance of material manifestations and why you're not having it at the moment. Because the character formation that's happening is also very important. So thank you for that, because for a lot of people who are starting small or starting with very few material resources, it takes a lot of the pressure out of the way. And emotionally, you feel better about yourself and your demonstration. So thank you so much, Dr. Vehuni. And I want to thank Robbie, Jason, and Lynn for always, Dax for always helping me with the tech, and our co-producers, Sir Rolly and Sir Nathan. Thank you, everyone. Benedictine International School, Reverend Florence Monzon, my Satnam Prayer and Meditation Circle, and also the International Metaphysical Ministry, Unity Worldwide, the Global Coherence Initiative, and Metaphysics. And next week, I'm going to have Jennifer Hill So I'm excited for everyone because she has a lot of tools to share as well. So that's all for now, everyone. And may I invite everyone to, Jason, I want to check, can we flash the books of Dr. Vehuni before we end the workbooks and her meditation? Thank you. So that the audience will get to see. All right. So that's the book, and it has all the artworks that I was raving about earlier. And this is her workbook. The other one is called Magical Living. It's the workbook. So anyway, while we're waiting for it, I really love workbooks because you get into this time when you're reading a lot of books and you know how much credibility the author has. You just want to give me all the information and I'm going to take action anyway because it's really the action part that gets things moving. And then this is her prayer and meditation circle. So while we're waiting for that prayer and meditation circle poster to pop in the screen, I also want to invite everyone to visit www.universityofmetaphysics.com because we have an ongoing scholarship program. So for those of you who would like to get into life coaching or you want to become meditation teachers, the University of Metaphysics and University of Sedona offers scholarship programs for everyone, and you just have to fill up the form. All right. So anyway, please visit her website. And I'm just going to, there's an issue now. We couldn't bring it up at the moment, but she has her meditation circles every Sunday. Dr. Vehuni, would you like to invite them? All right. So she has this meditation circles every Sunday, which she does for free. And she also uploads her meditations in YouTube. So that's all for now, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I just want to sum up everything that, in the manifesting process, in the vast evolving field of metaphysics, there are still actions that we need to take. And it's so much better if you have the framework that can actually help you understand the process and help you get out of the inertia of going back to your patterns and taking that inspired action. So take advantage of downloading her books through her website, www.deyanabihuni.com. And before we end the show, I just want to invite everyone for the Unity Prayer of Protection. So simply close your eyes and let's just affirm this together. The light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is and all is well. Satnam, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in here in Practical Magic and V81 Radio, South Manila. I'll see you again next week. And thanks again, Dr. Deyara Bioni and the rest of the staff.
Thank you.
Consistently delivering the very best in metaphysics here in Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Till next time, only here on V81 Radio, South Manila. Walang kasing saya ang Paskong Pinoy. Dumaan man ang problema at pandemya, kayang-kayang lampasan. Basta't nagdadamayan at nagmamahalan.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Tuloy na tuloy pa rin ang Pasko dito sa V81 Radio, South Manila.
Ito ang paborito ng bawat Pilipino. Basta all hits o Pinoy Panalo. Merong kwentong iyakan at tawanan.